Call the meeting to order today, November 13th at 7:30. And we're going to start out with having the approval of the last month's minutes. Any objections or anything to the minutes? Are they all okay? Everyone second that we approve the,
I second.
okay, all approval?
Aye.
6-0. Okay, now I listed a couple of points here because we don't have a wetlands application for this month, which is pretty good, I think. I mean, I'll get into that later, but the first thing I listed is the nature preserve visits. Now, we have 7 of these on the island. And if you don't know what they are, you can go see Amber Wilson in the town clerk, and she'll give you a list of them. But basically, it's West Neck Beach, it's Silver Beach, it's Satron's Woods, Ice Pond, what else is there? The Garcia property, and Dickerson Park. That's the basic 7 that we have. We can walk them. I suggest that we all go and take a walk. Not together, just go out when you get a chance to walk these properties and come up and maybe the next meeting we can review them. Because it's our obligation to the town that we do this at least once a year. We've given the reports. And, they're available from the county clerk, town clerk, not the county. So
That's separate from the CPF.
it's completely separate from the CPF. This is town monitored properties.
Right.
We've walked it. And before I go any further, I'd just like, like Mark has given, he's not going to continue with us any longer.
Right.
If everybody knows that.
Oh,
but,
I didn't, no.
Yeah. He decided to take a break and everything. He's been on it for 15 years. Yeah. So a long time. And he might come back. We don't know. But if anybody knows anybody, the town is advertising for somebody to join the committee. So we have 7 people. So. And we'll miss Mark. I mean, he was with Cornell and stuff like that. He always had good input. So anyway, okay. So that's one. But the nature preserves, I'd like to, start giving reports in before it gets too cold. And you can go see a lot of and then now's a perfect time. There are ticks around, but we're going to have to always protect ourselves from the ticks. They're always going to be here until we figure out something. We're working with other committees, the deer and tick, to try to get what shrubbery we should get rid of so the ticks don't live in there and stuff like
Maybe we
that.
should put the 4 posters out again, but anyway.
4 posters are gone,
I know, but
unfortunately.
yes, that was a really
Fortunately,
stupid
it
move.
depends on what side you were on those, but.
Well, I was on the pro because I was on the committee. And to me, it's insane.
Yeah, but,
But anyway,
it's like everything, majority rules, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So actually, it's in your mission statement about the visiting of the town properties.
Yes, it is. Definitely
Right.
is.
Statement.
It always is.
What I'm gonna hand you when I do the liaison report
Right,
is 4 suggestions. And the first one, a part of the first one is to conduct the annual inspections of the town properties, focusing on the proper maintenance and remediation measures. In other words, invasive species control, removal, accessibility, utilization, improvements, etc. Inspections conducted during the months of, I would like to see them during the winter months where, because of the tick situation and just the access into these areas, November through February is a perfect time to do this. Maybe January through March, that's debatable. But that is the time to do your visits. I've been obviously, taking some photography and going out in the woods in the last few weeks. The tick situation's down because of the cold. The weather is starting to change a little bit, so it is starting to come down a little bit. But in the cold weather, again, you always got to spray yourself and dress appropriately, but and I would strongly suggest maybe, you divide up the properties, and you don't have to do them all in 1 year. So you take the number of properties, just I'll make up a number, say 9, and every 3 years, maybe, do 3 extensive, maybe visit all 9 properties quickly, but focus heavily on 3, and then the next year focus on 3 more, then heavily on the following 3, a little bit more, where you come up with a more detailed report. And you don't have to go in there and do any of this stuff, you just have to get a report.
Right.
And then we have to follow through and say, hey, listen, who's gonna be assigned, in the town, put the pressure on people, who's gonna take care of this? Because if the report is done in a timely fashion in February, you do have the months of March and maybe early April to get out and do some remediation on these properties. That would be the little bit of downtime, because you're not gonna get these people in the summer and to go out there. So that's why I said November, December, kind of January or December, January, February, because that gives you March and the beginning of April, the weather's still cool, to have the town go out and do some remediation. I don't think you're gonna remediate all the properties at once, but focus on the ones that you wanna focus in on, and then just change the focus as you move around on that calendar. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, the last time we did that was last year, I think, and most of them are in good shape. They've been cleaned out, and they're pretty good. One thing I'd suggest is that we did quite a bit on the beaches because there was erosion and boats going all over the wetlands and stuff like that, so we brought that up. The town has corrected that at Wade's Beach. But if we go to the Wade's Beach or to Silver Beach, we should do it at high tide. Because the last month, the tides have been enormously high. I mean, the docks are covered by me with water on a high tide.
Very low yesterday.
Low is low, but high is high,
Yeah, no, I'm saying
High tide is-
that you got both tides. There was two proper tides.
Yeah.
Just moving a little faster. I think that has something to do with the
But
movies
like
too.
that down by me in Montclair Colony, I see, the wetlands, the mean high water line was established probably, it's supposed to be where the vegetation shows a marking. But it might take 6 to 7 years for that to show up. And I can see the land is slowly coming up around, there's properties, waterfront properties in Montclair that are flooded when we go into like a slight little storm or something like that. And that means all the septic system going right out to the bay. I don't care if you have an IA system or anything. IA is better because it's cut down to
Right.
12 milligram from 75. It's the best thing we can do. But we have to look at these properties and I walk around and look at Ice Pond and stuff, how that water has changed over there, around there. But it's mainly to walk around, see what it is and get your assessment of it. We all use common sense and say, this looks bad, maybe we could do something. We'll write it down, we'll report it at the committee, and then we'll make up a total report of it.
Should we go in groups or small groups? Because sometimes it's good to be able to talk to each other and somebody knows one thing that somebody else doesn't know.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt, that's okay. We can do
3 at a
that.
time or something.
Whenever, and I'm usually around, I'm going into all the properties with Tim Pertel and stuff like that. On the preservation.
Yeah.
So, and they invite everybody is invited to go in the properties.
Yeah,
All the town-owned
Yeah.
properties of preservation, they got beautiful signs up, you walk, and I always carry a small plastic bag because I always find debris. It could be blown off of boats or whatever. I walk around the peninsula of Menantic Peninsula there. And at low tide, you can walk around. It's open property to everybody at low tide, up to the mean high water line,
Yeah.
which I said is slowly getting higher and higher. And you see my neighbor's dock down there, you can't use it. The boards are rising up, the nails are lifting, and I don't know if you followed some of the town problems with the water management,
I just put another stringer on top and redeck it.
yeah.
That's the cheapest way to do it, add another 6 or 8 inches and
Yeah.
put the deck on top of that.
Just have a bigger step on low tide.
Yeah, that's all. What are you gonna do?
But by me, where I used to keep my boat moored, can't anymore.
Yeah.
Sand has just come over. It's just-
Well, I know a lot of projects we'll go down to and the monument is out on the bay. You know what I mean?
It's
It's the
ridiculous.
way it is, Billy Johnson told me when he was a kid, that rock over by by the Ram's Head Inn, that big rock that's off on the, when he was a kid, he used to sit on that rock and the beach was 50 feet further out. And he lived to be about 95, so that's how much erosion's happened just on that part of it. And that rock was, covered in sand, just a little bit, like 3 feet of it sticking out, that was it.
Yeah,
Now the whole thing's out of the water and it's, so,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable.
yeah.
I mean, it's happening and it's us, human beings.
Yeah.
We have population doubled the last 50 years,
Yeah, well, you take Ice Pond, that was all woods around Ice Pond. So probably the fresh water, now it's all developed all down Sylvan Road and, everything drains into there. And then if the salt water rises, the fresh water that comes in there doesn't dominate over the salt water because the salt water is pushing back in.
Yeah, that's all brackish in there.
It's all brackish, yeah.
Yeah, now it is.
And that's from it coming, the salt water coming up. That was strategically built to work like it did, and then once everything came up, it messed it all up, So,
There's a lot of changes happening. It's going to be hard for us to keep up with them, but it's something we have to look for and report on. That's all.
Yeah.
We're not going to do it ourselves, the county, look at with the IA systems, they're 3 years behind.
yeah,
And I was mentioning before that now one of the candidates that we have for office has an IA system. I mean,
right,
that's not a good sign to the public,
right.
We're trying to push this with the county and even if you do 2 a week, which would be great, that means we still need 10 years to get everybody an IA system.
Right.
We're not looking at like next week or something.
Right,
We gotta look 10 years down.
Yeah.
12 years down.
10 years isn't that much time, really.
No.
The overall scheme of things,
To some people.
If the government would stay out of the way, things would happen a lot quicker, but, that's how it goes.
Let's a couple of things there, like personally, when I was on the board, I was gonna put in for an IA system, I was gonna wait till I get off the board before I.
Right.
did that. Plus the house is brand new, relatively 17 years old, so therefore the septic system that's in there is a pretty good conventional system. And the other thing is, I would like to see the money concentrated where it's needed, where the nitrogen levels are the highest. So when all this data now comes back, and is back, we're only missing a few homes out of the 167 homes on water testing. You're gonna see, and Meg will be perfect for this, you'll get up and make a presentation, you'll see within the red triangle,
Right.
where it's dark red, where it's light red and pink, and where the real hot spots are. So what you're gonna try to do is convince as many of those people as possible to start with IA systems. So rather than in the nearshore area where salt intrusion is the #1 issue, let's put all our eggs in a basket and monies in a basket, try to clean up the center of town because the water goes out from the center. We need to focus on the health of the people that live in the middle of the island. So I do think we've done all the preliminary work. Meg is leading the charge on that. She'll continue to lead the charge on that. She's very knowledgeable and represents that very well. That's something that's gonna happen. The other thing I was just thinking about here is, as you do all these inspections, and you make all these notes, and you make these, I could see it, you go out, you spend 5 or 6 weekends out at different properties, you go and you make an extensive report, it's handed over to the board, and then what happens? Well, there's a number of things that have to happen. Number one, if you're talking remediation for March, who's doing it? Is it the highway department that's doing it? Do they have the proper equipment? Do they need equipment? Are we contracting this out to have done? Are we having a person like Dan come in to help us, or somebody like him to come in and help the town clear some of these properties? Are we widening the trails? Do we have enough money in the budget to cover these kinds of expenses? Where's the money coming from? It's coming from the preservation fund because in there it talks about maintenance, not just buying it, but maintaining it. So all of those things have to happen, but it's not gonna happen, mark my words, unless you push it. Unless you push it. This committee has to push it. So I'm not gonna be around any longer to make sure that happens, but before I leave, I'm gonna share this with the current people, even though only 2 people coming back, but when the new board comes in, I'm gonna be a voice for, let's get this done. Let's maintain these properties.
Well, the highway department's stretched thin.
They are.
Because people don't realize, but every time something happens around the island, they have to go put fences up, they have to do this, that, and the other. They don't have that many freelance guys. A lot of guys are at the dump, that's their place. It's almost like they,
So you sit down with Ken Lewis and you.
yeah,
talk
you almost
about-
need like a couple of guys.
You do.
That you could just designate
Utility-
to things,
Yes, it changes during the time of the year how you utilize them.
right?
Because in the month of March, I want those two, if we hire those two people, this is your assignment.
Yeah.
This is, you take that plan and you go to those properties that this committee is, and you remediate those properties. And your job may change in May and June and July during the hot summer months, but, they may be doing more cutting and things, maintenance on those properties, maintaining the properties, because everything grows so rapidly in the summertime. But that's leadership. That's hopefully, Kenny's gonna hopefully come in and provide some of that. I think Brian has done a great job, but you are 100% right. We're
Yeah, and
overwhelmed.
you go to the squeaky wheel, that's the way it is, and,
You got
like dry wells, I mean, they don't put a lot, they have a lot of precast piled up, and they never get to put them in.
Correct.
Because they don't have the time, so they just need to designate that time, and,
There are exactly 36 of them. I counted them all.
It's also a problem with the building department. They're stretched so.
Yeah.
Permits, I mean, it's.
Unless we wanted the budget to go up 20%, we have addressed all of those issues. We put an extra man on recycling, we put an extra person in our building department, we beefed up the rental market in terms of enforcement, hiring this new part-time guy who's a crackerjack. So
Is that Michael,
that's not my
code enforcement officer?
Michael is a code enforcer, but he's learning the skills from, what's his name?
Is it Father Peter's?
No. Mickey.
That's Michael.
Michael.
Mickey G.
he's too nice to be a code enforcer.
We took, DeSantis?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's true. But Mickey is 2 decades of, guys, great.
Yeah,
He's pleasant,
right,
but he's tough.
yeah.
And he's visited and he's changing the tune here. My advice, if I was staying on the board, I would take Mickey from part-time and I would try to lure somebody like him full-time. That's all he would do is enforcement.
Right.
That's all he would do. So number one criticism of the town board, since I've been on it, enforcement. You have all these things, you don't enforce, or you don't enforce consistently. You need to be more consistent with your enforcement, and that's something you should work at. So I think everybody knows where the issues are.
Right.
It's the dinero to pay for it and to make it happen.
We used to have a lot more volunteers too. I mean, people don't want to volunteer anymore. I mean, we used to have the Vine buses go around. There was a group of us like 12. And then we have the neighborhood associations, part of the Shelter Island Association. These groups can get together and do something, so that helps.
Howard, things are changing, not my job, that's why I pay you my taxes, I want it done for me.
Exactly.
But you don't have
Things are changing.
the Boy Scouts really around anymore, and groups like that.
Eagle Scouts and stuff.
Well, I mean, just that you could mobilize to do stuff like that too.
That's a liability with tools now.
No, I know. Well, everything's a liability. That's all I gotta say. The L word, it's like, oh, no, forget it.
Yeah, it's true. It's not easy to get.
If you give, just somebody that's volunteering their time, clippers or a saw and they cut themselves on town property,
Right.
Whose problem is that?
Yeah, that's true.
You gotta be licensed and insured.
Yeah, and you didn't give proper instructions, so,
Every Saturday, we used to go up to Mishomic and cut bittersweet.
yeah.
3 hours, and people, even guy from Sag Harbor came over, paid his fee.
Yeah, but they had Tom Deanne leading the charge,
Yeah,
you don't have that now.
Yeah.
Well, like that West Neck Preserve over there, where they're
Right.
gonna get rid of the mugwort.
Right.
What are they gonna do after that?
Cedar, they're gonna put in ryegrass now, which Tim Patel is spreading by hand, I heard this morning.
I was under the impression it was gonna be like a native plants, like
They
they're gonna
will
put
try
all
to do that.
stuff that
They've
you
gotta-
can
they've
use to
got-
live
The
here.
metal there, I think.
They've gotta try to kill the bugwort first, which is literally impossible.
That's it, yeah, you can't.
But you need to put down the winter rye so
Right.
something holds the ground, and then they'll mow that
Right.
until they stop getting those sprouts, and then they'll till it up and put something,
Something
a
in
little
there.
blue stem or
They
something
have a
like that.
plan that's on their site, that was done by What was it, Voorhees, Howard Needles Voorhees or whatever.
Because
it is.
people, if they probably saw what the actual native plants that used to live here were, they'd probably want to put them around their yards. They're pretty cool, like the bayberry and a lot of this stuff that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you go right around the corner to the Langendals field there on the corner there. It's perfectly blue stem and,
Right.
you know, that's all bayberry patches in the middle. Looks beautiful.
Yeah.
And that stays like that all year with
Right.
no
That's why I
problem.
had the tennis court like in Seward Beach. I had
Yeah.
that for about 10 years until the big things blew in, you know, the big grasses took over.
Yeah.
2 years just took over the thing.
Yeah.
I said, you gotta jump on it. No, we're afraid to spend money. And now, of course, you know, I'm gonna leave. Clean it up.
Eventually it gets to you, yeah.
That's
Okay, but
why I move into retirement.
well, you get busier then, I tell you that. Okay, so we got that. Now, wetlands review. Now, we still are responsible, the town board still gives us the wetlands to look at. And then they turned over the responsibility of judgment of the answers to the planning board, which I think most of the public was against, but some were for. But the planning board has some good people on it. They're not knocking them, they're intelligent people. But they have to, my feeling is we have to make sure that we tell them what we're looking at. In other words, that we can't just tell, and they said it at many meetings, they only look at 129 for the wetlands review, because that's the code, wetlands code. They're not looking at the zoning code, which is 133 for the nearshore overlay. Why? Because the zoning board doesn't want to look at it. And the building department said the zoning board doesn't want to look at it. We can't look at it, you know, it's in that section of code. But us,
Well, they just have to rewrite the code so it makes sense, you know, that's all. I mean, just clarify
And
everything.
they have a peculiar read of
Right.
129.
Right.
yeah,
I mean, the paragraph that deals with, did you explore the alternatives?
right. You very seldom hear that explained.
Okay, I have 0.1 acre of property. The house I'm planning goes to the road and to my neighbor's fence. No, that doesn't work because we have setbacks.
Right.
So what does it mean? I have to build a smaller house. Now, how is that concept different when we have 100 feet from the water?
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah,
The alternative is your plan has to be downsized
Right.
to say we don't have building limitations in the code.
Right.
And that's why we have to go that, no, you don't, you can build as far as your code allows.
That's why it's got to be clarified. It's got to be rewritten and.
But
also-
really, or you want to, it depends on how you read the code. Are you reading the
The way
code?
it's written now, it's.
No, it says show me alternatives.
yeah, it does do that. But
And then unless you completely shut out logic,
Right.
and your work is really focused on how do I get around this?
Right. Which is what's going
Then
on.
you get to the result that we got on 7 Chickwit.
yeah,
Yes.
And that brings me back to the greater concern. Someone who chairs the place brings in a proposal that he knows is stretching the thing. And even if he recuses himself,
oh, yeah, it's,
his buddies are pushing it through with the most questionable argumentation. And then what are we doing here?
right.
Right.
Pulling weeds on the
We're trying
weekends?
to explain to them what's,
Pulling weeds on the weekends. No,
but,
Flying.
but both those codes, the wetlands and the, you know, the zoning code have to be, you know,
look at again, but.
well, they have to just, they both to reinforce each other, you know?
I always say they do, because the nearshore overlay says 100 feet, nothing. But we know we have a lot of properties, old properties, the people still live there, they haven't sold them.
Right.
That are in that area that was established in 2005. Now, those people have to have a little leeway with, you know, so that's why we have the 75 foot, nobody goes in there. But the 100, the next 25, there's a permit, but we don't have to give a permit. If they explain to us what they're doing is good, there's no reason for a permit, you know. But That's why I say those two have to work together, because they both cover wetlands.
Right.
But you can't write a code, and I've written quite a number of codes with it, but that eliminates existing conditions. You have to be fair to the people that own the land and they're gonna sell it. They say, well, I had this land for 3 generations and I wanna sell it now. Now you're telling the buyer he can't go here?
Right.
You know,
Well, it used to be 10-foot elevation. There was no setback from the water.
DEC is still 10 foot high.
Well, 10 foot and 75 feet back.
Yeah,
But it used to be just 10-foot elevation. It could be 25 feet back. Didn't matter. But then they changed that when the DEC went to 75. But then the town decided to do that thing in between 75 and 100.
Right.
Which most other towns don't do.
right.
So that's,
So technically it is 75 statewide.
yeah, that's the DEC
Yeah.
rule. Right.
But
But they never used to be, like I say, they only went 10 feet elevation until they moved it to 75 feet back, no matter elevation. If you look along Manatee Creek, there's that house that's right on the little bluff. A lot of them were done right on the edge of the bluff.
Yeah.
Because that was what it was done back then.
But I also say, you know, the code is a minimum. Any good engineer will go beyond the code,
Right.
has to go beyond the code, or he won't get the next job. And once the client finds out what he did on that job, just following code.
Right.
It's like, I'm electrical, so I know a lot of the electrical code. PVC is allowed and XHHW, which is non-PVC. I would never specify PVC.
Right.
And they say, well, it's expensive. So what's expensive? You want a good job or you want the run-of-the-mill job? You know, you want somebody get hurt because the fire department comes in and they get the chlorine gases from the PVC. Another thing.
But here it works the other way around.
Exactly. Thank
You want to
you.
hire the architect who gets around the code.
Correct.
And that's exactly what happened.
Well,
And that's what we're seeing
It's
regularly.
a chess game. It's really what it is.
that's what.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be a game.
No, it's
No, it's, and that's why we have to.
You're playing with public interest against short-term.
Right.
If we assume that the water is going to rise, at some point that house is going to be underwater. And then, but that's in the short-term interest that people are pursuing.
Right.
Get rich today, tomorrow, maybe the grandkids, and then game over because we're not around.
Right.
It doesn't matter. You just want to maximize now.
Right.
I want it now, and I don't care what the rest does.
Yeah.
And that's the attitude that I thought the code should rein in, and it doesn't.
Well, I could be sitting in a WMAC meeting listening to the same arguments.
Because people have the same attitude.
It's my riparian right.
Right.
And I'm putting that dock in, even though it's an unsafe area to put a dock in.
Right.
So, and I can, and I will, and if you don't approve it, I'm gonna sue you.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Right.
You know, I know my rights, and, you know, and the room is full of neighbors. They need you to, how about this, time out, live there for a year, put a mooring out there, observe
The motion.
and then the next thing is, well, I'm gonna put the dock in, but I'm not gonna bring my boat in. I don't need my boat over here, I'll put my boat somewhere else. I just wanna go sit out on the dock. I want the grandkids to be able to fish off the dock. It adds value to my house if I have a dock. And folks, you can sit in the backyard, fish in the backyard, you can, I mean, do you have to sit out 100 feet closer to see the vista? It's right there in front of you. I mean, there's a point where if you learned one thing when you went to the debates, the common theme was, when is the town board going to learn to say the word no?
Right.
No. So when I voted the other day on the Peconic Avenue dock, and I voted no, Amber was gonna vote no, but she was sick, but it would have been a 3-2. Why did the other three? Because the threat of a lawsuit. Said,
Well, it's-
listen, by the way, I hear that, but if you advertise that we're folding up our tents because of the threat of a lawsuit, you have now conveyed the wrong message, because everybody's picking up on that message saying, hey, listen, all we have to do is tell the town board, who's ever up there, the 5 goons that are up there, me included, we're just gonna sue them. And we'll play that game.
Yeah, but if the-
You wanna play hardball? We'll play hardball with
The
you.
code's rewritten correctly, then there won't be a lawsuit.
Correct,
That's what has to happen.
Okay.
Right now, everything is half-assed.
correct. You're right.
Everything.
You're
So
right.
they got to straighten that all out.
So whoever sits in that middle chair needs to take that, whether it's gonna be Stephen Kiley or a new town attorney, whoever's gonna sit there, That needs to be their focus for the next 2 to 3 to 4 years.
Yeah,
Taking that town code chapter by chapter,
Right.
hitting the big ones, the ones you talked about, the ones that WMAC has talked about. They're coming to meeting tomorrow to make a presentation on some changes about docks, which we made changes about moorings. So the town code thing is gonna be forefront. It's gonna be a major thing for the new town board.
it kind of has to be, otherwise things are just gonna fall
By the way,
apart.
we did a lot of change. I have 50 things that we just did in the last 2 years. Quite a few of them are code changes, but they're not the code changes that we're talking about here that separate, excuse the expression, the men from the boys, the
Right.
ladies from the girls.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, taking a hard line. look.
Absolutely.
So I always say pendulum swing back and forth, and the pendulum swinging right back to a more conservative approach on these things, a more tightening of the reins, so to speak, after having gone way over here and, okay, all right, okay. You're gonna go from 12 bedrooms to 11, great. You're gonna go from 10 bathrooms to 9, great, good. My client, yeah, playing ball, playing a game, as you say. So those days have to be over. You have to have people up there that are gonna, you have a town attorney, you gotta have the town code behind you, and you can't be granting things at a whim. Based on, the things that got to this group is, when the planning board turned around and said, yeah, but it's taking away from my view.
That's unbelievable.
I mean, so move it 2 degrees this way, now you have the view, but you move the pool a little out. Get it out of the 75, get it out of the 100. You got this big piece of property to play with. But just as much of a problem, and I'll just leave you with this, is you go up and down Peconic Avenue, it's not the 6-acre plots, the 3-acre plots. It's the third of an acre, the half of an acre, the quarter of an acre, of building what you can build on there, and it looks extreme. It looks more extreme on Peconic Avenue than if you go down to Bootleggers and you see 6 acres and a guy putting a big house down there. It just fits in with all the other big houses up the rim. But in Silver Beach, where the cottages all got to be bigger houses, mine included, but it's 275 feet this way. We're not 25 feet from this property line, 25 feet from this, and going up, 35 feet. It's, go to Nassau County, because they call places to be a beautiful community. They're all 3 floors now. It looks like Queens.
Right.
And Queens keeps moving east, you gotta learn.
Yeah, it's something, we just have to be on top of it, I think, and every time we look at a property, say something. That's write it down. And by the way, one property that I think Jim was referring to is 169 Ram Island, but we suggest everything that the planning board's going to have a hearing on the next meeting. So if you get a chance, just zoom it and look at it.
So is there something definitive that we can suggest that we do to get ourselves out from under the position that we're in, where we're there's endless compromise or debate. In other words, are there sections of the code? I agree with Jim completely, with the exception of the idea that it would take 2 or 3 years to work through revisions of the code language. I don't think that's true.
Yeah, no,
I would
that
think
won't.
that could be done.
I was done.
Do it about an hour.
I mean, the attorney works for the town, and this stuff is not that complex. There's model codes out there. I mean, if we were to provide what we feel are the points of ambiguity and where we believe it ought to be strengthened, you're only asking the attorney to craft legal language. I don't think that's a big ask. And it is doing what all of us are saying because because of the ambiguity, it's open to debate, and we have people talking about things like views, which should never be entertained at all, but clearly is. And I think it causes, I know it causes you, but I mean as well, to feel like, what are we doing? I think that we got onto this committee because we'd like to do something important for this island and something that's going to really make a difference. And nothing's going to really make a huge difference unless we modify the code.
Right.
And there's a variety of sections of the code. And when Jim was talking about houses taking up every square inch of land, one of the things I tried to prep a little bit for this meeting, but, habitat destruction, wildlife, part of what we're supposed to be protecting is natural resources, and wildlife is a faceless, nameless a group that can't speak for themselves, but we should be speaking for them. And when we allow huge properties or even every square inch or knock down trees, we understand what that does to wildlife, but why are we not doing more with that? There are communities that are, not as many as we know should be, but you can find them. I've pulled ordinances myself. It's trees, habitat.
Well, hopefully, the committee that Dan and I are on.
Tomorrow, hopefully, we'll have,
Okay.
We should be able to dot the i's and cross the t's.
yeah, we're writing a tree code right now.
Is the tree code only dealing with town property or is it private
no,
land?
This is gonna be across the
Across
board.
the board,
Good.
everything.
Yeah, so we've been working on that for a couple of weeks and
Yeah. And
moving pretty quick too.
And we're moving
Good.
pretty quick. I think
Okay.
Sean Davey has been a big help.
Yep.
He's
Did a good job.
He's done a really good job.
Tim's done a great job, and I think that by tomorrow we'll be
Yeah.
ready to
Do
go.
we have a chance to see those things or weigh in on them before they get sent to the town? I guess I was just thinking again,
What will happen is,
Yeah.
the normal way, when you have a subcommittee,
yeah,
and this
Okay.
is a subcommittee that was put together by the town board,
okay,
they'll come in and make a presentation on a work session. You
Okay.
can tune in or come and be briefed on it during the work session.
Okay.
Or tune in on Channel 22 and watch it.
okay,
Then you have a comment period. It doesn't mean that that work session is going to be adopted. It's going to be aired.
Aired.
We're going to discuss it. Town board's either going to like it, dislike it, or tweak it, and then wait 3 weeks, and then we're going to come back on a Tuesday night meeting, and we're going to adopt it. But you'll have ample opportunity, as every citizen that lives here has an
Right.
opportunity to weigh in on that, that change.
The only problem with that system that's working now on the committee, or the town board, the work session, is that they wait to the end of the meeting and say any public opinion on it, and you might have 5 subjects. And it should be as the subject is completed, the first subject, if it's waterways or something, any comment. And then the next
Right.
one go, because
Probably be
otherwise
there all night at that point.
you'd be sitting there all
That's
night
okay.
waiting for this to go through and to say something. And I know it's not an easy thing for a board to do that, but that's what's happening. And I've been to meetings where I sit there and I say, Jesus, I got another half hour to go.
There's a number, you gotta limit the agenda. You can't have 15 items on the agenda.
Right.
And you're gonna be here for 3.5 hours.
Right, yeah.
So if you limit the agenda to 4 items or 5 items,
Right.
you're right. We're gonna spend a half hour on each one of them. We're gonna take about 15 minutes to present it. We're gonna open it up to the public. You got 3 minutes to come up.
Right.
We're gonna stick with the 3 minutes.
That's all
If you
right.
haven't finished it at the 3 minutes, you'll sit down, you'll get a second opportunity if you need to tie something together. And we're gonna seek some community input. It is a work session. The thing back and forth about what's the work session
Right.
for?
Sure.
It's for the town board to come together to discuss, but there's no other place really to get public input. So, I agree with you. I think you gotta have 5 people that up there with the town attorney, having an understanding of what you want out of your work sessions. They've gotta be a little bit more flexible, a little bit, like the nickel dime things, say you put 5 or 6 of them on. 2 of them, that's gonna be a 5-minute thing. They're gonna have a wedding in October on Wayne's Beach, It's what's it gonna take? It's gonna take 5 minutes to approve that.
Call up Jim Reed and say, have any problem?
Exactly. Parking is gonna be the issue. We're gonna look for your license if you're serving liquor, that kind of stuff. Those things you can put out, you can get rid of them, 1, 2, 3. But don't try to put 3 big, heavy topics on the same agenda and think that you're gonna do that justice, because you just don't. So I do think that, whoever the person is that sits in that middle chair, that sits down with Christina, creates the agenda, has to, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But that would be my,
Howard, I guess as a committee, if we have, as Jim articulated, the advising and the development, management, and protection of the town's natural resources, wouldn't it make sense for us to collectively look at something like a tree ordinance and talk about it here? To see, I mean, granted, I know Tim's done a fabulous job. Paulette was on Friends of Trees for years and suggested that I call him about ordinances, and I did that. And obviously, Tim is fabulous, and I'm sure that the document is excellent. But I also would think we should look at that, and maybe as a committee, it's important.
You will have an opportunity, by the way, if you have your December meeting, plan on having a December meeting, right?
Yes.
Why don't we
So
do,
if you have a December.
let's have that on the agenda.
And it's presented, let's say we have the meeting tomorrow night, which
Right.
we'll
Great,
go into the
yeah.
following Tuesday.
Yes.
We'll have one on Thanksgiving. So
Right.
now you're into December, and then once it's discussed there, you have to have 3 weeks before you can vote on it. We'll have a meeting in between.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So obviously you can take that report.
Yeah.
We can highlight it here.
Yeah.
Ed and I could come in with it. We can make that part of it. Cut this agenda down a little bit, just
Exactly.
highlight just a couple of things. That'll be a presentation. We'll pick that thing apart. If you want to dot the i's and cross the t's on that, yeah, the two of us can bring that back.
Yeah.
That would be great. Yeah, I think as
Not
we're,
not a problem.
I mean,
I think
we've
anytime we
looked at a lot of townships around us, we've
I know,
looked
yeah.
at places,
Right.
farther away. So we're trying to be, some people are a lot more lenient, we're trying to fall in the middle to make everybody happy. But at the same time, we do not want to be the strictest town out of all of them right away, because we don't know how many people are gonna react.
Right.
So we need to be able to tone it down if we need
There's
to.
a couple of
There's
nuances.
no way to make it, less.
That's true.
It depends
I
what
guess-
you're dealing with what type of tree. as we
Exactly,
said.
it's very species specific
Yeah,
and.
we are, and size specific, and how many
Right.
trees you can cut. And we've even looked at the change of ownership on a property when you come in.
right,
Even
Tree
if you're not, even
surveys.
if you don't have having a tree survey,
Right.
requiring having a tree survey when you come in.
great
It
idea.
would be very helpful to somebody when they buy a lot.
It
And
would,
be able to go, hey, this is valuable, this is good, this is native, this is not, this is invasive. Go through
Right.
there. And then if you plan on a year or two down the road of building or something, hey, I would try to keep these, along the side. You can get rid of these in the middle here, some of these invasives. Have some type of sense, and it's an education.
it is.
People are coming from city, Nassau
Sure,
County.
they don't
have
know.
no clue about what's native out here.
Right.
And what's not. I didn't.
Right,
I just
right.
luckily, asked a
Learned.
lot of questions.
Exactly.
Before I started planting. I made mistakes, with what I put in.
Of
I
course,
mean, trees are
course.
great. And you could do passive solar energy. Instead of putting panels on your roof, if you plant the trees correctly, and stuff like that, save a lot of energy. But trees also take from an aquifer. A growing oak tree takes 100 gallons a day, I think, uses, and a weeping willow probably 150 gallons a day.
I
So-
agree.
Willow's probably more than 100.
Yeah,
I mean,
1,500.
They're vacuums.
talking about somebody said, well, I like a weeping willow here, and I said, well, you use only,
Too close to the septic, and it was in the septic.
Yeah.
I had 3 of them, believe me. I had 2
Yeah.
globals and 1 weeping.
Yes.
They're all gone.
But that's the thing, that's, everything comes into light when you spread out the decisions of.
Couldn't we have a list of, the different trees that are good and those
Yes.
that are not?
Yeah, we're gonna have a list. Yep, there's gonna be a list and then size.
I wanted to ask something about runoff.
Yeah, that's a good one.
When we built our house, we're on a slope and we were on the lower slope. And they were pushing down trees and moving the earth and all that. And there was no, what do you call it, a fence, a fence, whatever you call it. They put up the tar paper to catch the water before it goes down. So we watched that and we thought, uh-oh, what's going to happen? And isn't something going to be done? And lots of times they do put up those pieces of material, which I don't know how much that does, that black stuff, to hold
The
the,
wire back mesh.
Well, it's to hold back the soil from coming down when you're on a slope. Okay, well, yes, I mean, this is personal, but what happened was neither the new residents nor the building company did a thing about that. Nothing was put up to stop the runoff. So one night, we were sleeping and we heard this noise. We had, I can't tell you how much water pouring through our basement windows. 6 inches of water in our basement, and our house is fairly large. Now, there was something wrong. I know this is a long time ago and all, but there was something really wrong with that. Who was responsible? The homeowner or the builder or both?
Well.
Because we had told them, watch out.
It's the building department enforcing the regulations. I've walked around properties that we've looked at for wetlands, and work is being done before the permit's issued.
Right.
Now, that's a violation. Now, the town doesn't want to, I mean, these are contractors who we all know. You know, they live here and they do these things because they say, well, it's just, you know, you try to give them a little leeway. But what's the big rush? What is the big rush? Wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks until you get the permit? That's all it is. And you might be better off, your weather conditions.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is the contractor's way, and what, it's their thing, it's like engineers.
Yeah.
We used to take months just to do a plan. Now it's a CAD system, a computer, and they move this here, move this there, and then that's it. They don't, there's nobody checking
Yeah,
it, but that one engineer.
By the way, when you say it's whose responsibility, it's yours.
What?
It's the neighborhood association.
Right, that's,
Everybody,
Yeah.
including the building department, the builders, and the new owners. But that's why when they post that little sign out in front, they're gonna have a hearing on it. Come here, if I'm living here and this house is being built up in here, I'm gonna be carefully watching that and making sure. I mean, that Hilo area was a perfect example at Hilo, where they built that big house and the water was gonna come, mud and everything down. And all the neighbors got together, came in here, and guess what? They put in a huge cement wall, you know, to stop that from happening.
Oh, wow.
That thing's huge. It's like the Great Wall of China. You know, it's.
That didn't work either. None of it worked. You gotta design the house to fit the lot.
Correct.
You don't have a house like, I'm gonna take 62B,
Correct.
stick it up here on the top of this mountain.
Correct.
You can't do that. It's gotta, you know, if you had a drive under garage or something like that, and you use the hill, but they put a garage on top of the hill. I mean, just everything was dumb.
More, it's everybody's responsibility.
it is.
My point is, I mean, even I would know that you need to put some kind of a barrier, I don't care what it is, so that when you have a slope like this onto somebody's property, what's going to happen when you have a hard rain?
Yeah, well, like your house, they should have set the house higher up so you could have swelled around it. So that.
Yeah, but do I want to do that? No, why would I?
Well, I mean, whoever sided the house originally didn't do it right, that's all.
No, I disagree. It's not right for people to build a house when they're above you and not protect when they're taking the trees down. They're making a gully, and it did, form a regular stream.
Right.
That's not right either.
No,
they
I mean,
knew we were-
that's why today, there's all kind of restrictions on that.
Yeah.
It never was back then, but
That's
now.
another
restrictions
reason
then,
why,
yeah.
you know, the stormwater pollution protection plans should be for all properties, not just for 1 acre. You know, right now it's for
point.
1 acre. And we can, as a town, say, no, we want it on every property.
That would be-
That
Yes.
gets every contract.
It's common sense, though. I mean, you know, that's what
Right.
it is, you
But what
know?
it does is it puts every contractor working on that property responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the one engineer, the builder, every contractor is responsible. So it's a very good law, but it's only for 1 acre.
But it was
Yeah.
devastating for us. We had to buy a machine,
Sure it
you know,
is.
$600 to take the water out.
Sure.
Can you imagine 6 inches of water in your basement?
Yeah.
Pollution and mold and
Everything,
you know.
boilers and everything.
And we told them, we had told them,
Yeah,
Right.
don't
Well-
do what you're doing.
that's another problem.
But you made a recommendation, which is a really good one. That was another thing too, is like, we need to start capturing these excellent recommendations so that we can do something with them. If we have a law and it's only applicable, if there's 1 acre of property, why would we not say that that ought to be, you know, applicable across the board?
Especially when you're looking at, like, this one was on a hill.
Yeah.
They, you see that if it's flat, well, you know.
Of course, but it was definite. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So we kept looking at least for a screen of some kind that would go in around and stop, stop it. I don't know what you call it, those
I listed
barriers.
when,
Yeah.
everybody wants to know what to do when you go to the wetlands and get a plan. I listed a couple of items here, which you might want to just, we'll put it in the minutes. The sections of the code. One is
Yes.
129, which is the wetlands. 133, which is the zoning, which Article 12 deals with the nearshore overlay peninsula. Then we have also the section 82, which is irrigation. When you walk on these properties and you see the irrigation, you say, wait a second, you have a permit. If they have a permit, fine. But a lot of these irrigation systems are put in just haphazardly and stuff, and they're not taken out when it should be. So that's another section
Some of them
of.
were taken out when they were sunsetted.
Right.
They're all still there.
Yeah, but they're not being used, a lot of them. I mean, I have hoses on my hedges because you put it in when you first plant the hedges.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
then it disconnected, and that's.
Right, right.
The hose is still there, but it's
Right.
not working.
Right.
So there is a time for it. The other one is section 62, excavations, which you should be very familiar with. Everybody should know, if you're clearing land, you have to do certain things, in a section of the code. Another one is section 68, flood damage protection, prevention. So the whole code has these little things all over. We have to look at the code before you go to a property. Look at all the sections of the code, read it. Just read it once. I forgot it. So much I know. But, at least I know, oh yeah, that was something that I should look at. So I have those items. And then, we have to.
Do we currently have a tree ordinance that we're
Yes.
modifying? We do.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
We do. What is that? What section is that? Anybody know?
Offhand. I don't know. But it's I don't have it down. I could look in code, but I don't want to spend the time.
No, that's okay. Jim will figure
Just
it
go
out.
on the,
117.
117.
go
Okay.
on the code
Thank you.
from the town and, we
Yeah.
have it all listed there. It's great to just read and say, oh God, maybe I'm violating something here, like getting a permit for something. I would do my windows. I'm just replacing my windows. Why do I need a permit? Because you need a permit. So it's put in correctly.
Right.
That's it. And it's safe for the people, you just don't do things. But a lot of people, they're handy. They want to.
Right, sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
they could probably do it as good as the contractor, but you still need a permit to
Yeah.
legal.
Yeah, my recommendation, you take it for what it's worth. There's so much in the town code that you've alluded to that needs change. Don't try to change it.
Oh, no, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes, if you're gonna meet 12 times during the course of a year, prioritize it.
Yeah,
Right.
Let's go with in January, let's focus on, put the code on the agenda. Everybody read it beforehand. Everybody make some notes on the code of how you want to change it. Come in and discuss that, share your changes, and see if you can make a recommendation to the liaison to bring back to the town board on possible changes.
Right.
Share it with the town attorney, share it with whoever you want to share it with. But I would just take it one step at a time, and I would prioritize what you feel is important, what needs, more immediate look and see and change.
No, my question was that we've had comments from people on the committee. What do we look at when we go out there? And not everybody knows elevation lines and stuff like that. So I'm just giving the committee what I look in the code, we're not going to change everything at once, but this is what you look for, If the house is up here and the elevation lines, what does that mean? These markings, 8 foot, 10 foot on the plan? We should look at the code, explain some of that to them.
And there's plenty of apps now you can go on with the elevation and you can see very close, on Shelter Island.
Oh, yeah.
Visit a property and you're worried about what the slope
When
is.
you visit the property, then you'll see it.
You can actually
And
see
you
it.
can't do it by Googling,
Yeah.
It's a nice.
There are some
way to
apps
do it.
and things that do have that, so.
But actually, to go to the property really is you could see it, you say.
It was nice when you're standing there like, oh, yeah, that's where that really steep
How are we
part
gonna
is.
keep that out?
Yeah.
But we get into that all the time, so, okay, that was the next. Now, the next thing I had on my agenda, which I guess it turned in longer than I thought, but stewardship plans. Now, the preservation committee said they're gonna give it back to us to review. Years ago, we used to review after they make an outline and do what they want. And they said, would you just take a look to see any suggestions? Like, you're gonna allow hunting here, you're gonna allow a trail here or something there. So Gordon has said he's gonna start doing that again, so we can review the stewardship plans and have some input. Because not every plan is the same, and every neighborhood that this property is, like by me, it's the white property, beautiful piece of property, but you can destroy it very quickly.
They did a nice job on the entrance, selling the parking. I was in there, probably within the last 10 days or 3 weeks. Guy came out, one of the former owners, introduced himself,
Right,
had a nice conversation. We walked it a little bit. And, you know, the nice buffer that, the guy that lives on the left, when you drive in, doesn't have that buffer because those evergreens are all,
too tall, too tall.
they're all the bottom 8 feet or 9 feet have all died off, so you can see the pool in the backyard. So he did it on his side, they probably put in 50, 60 evergreens in there.
Yeah, they take, I don't know.
No, I think so, I think they'll do it right, but it's a beautiful little spot. And again, the maximum number of cars you're gonna get in there is, 2 or 3 cars
Yeah, you won't
at
be
any
fine.
one time. It's not becoming another Masonic, that's for sure. But they put all the dry wells in.
Yeah.
It really is, it was tastefully done, it's a nice addition.
Yes, it is. Yeah, we're gonna take a look at that, especially my neighborhood is right there, and there's 3 entrances to that piece of property.
Right.
So there's a lot that we have to discuss about that, so that and we sort of protect that land. We'll walk in there, if we see somebody doing something, starting a fire, or we'll say something, probably get shot, but whatever happens.
Just as you joked about that, just
Yeah.
as you review these nature preserves,
Mm-hmm.
just please do make sure that if you see that there's a car in that spot and if there's somebody hunting in there, I wouldn't walk in.
No, exactly, respect that. It's usually posted by the police
It is,
department.
but you just gotta be careful.
Careful.
This hunting season is not going away until the end of March, so you don't end up wanting to walk in someplace.
No, right, just be
Oh,
careful.
yeah.
Somebody has been up in a stand for 3 or 4 hours waiting for a deer to come, and then
And
you
you spook it away.
spook it away or get shot at.
Or shot at yourself.
That's true.
Not a good situation.
Yeah, most of those properties aren't hunted though.
No, most of them aren't.
And if they are, they're posted very carefully.
Yeah.
Well, they close them. They use them when they're hunting.
Yeah. The cars usually, or the truck is right in the spot, it's identified that parking spot, the person's in there.
So that takes
Which
it.
ones do allow hunting, do you know?
Sachems.
It's just
Sachems.
They keep changing them. I
Well, they flip up the sign. I think it's a, sign that they can put up when it's, but I don't think Sachem's is always, I think on the weekends it's closed.
Yeah. It changes.
Walking, yeah.
Michelle, it closed down,
Right,
this
for the
weekend.
hunting.
Oh,
They brought
okay.
in- They brought in some hunters, from off island, I guess, they closed it down for the weekend. Sylvester Manor is closed down for the next umpteen months. Because last
Yes.
year, they didn't hunt in there, and we have an inordinate amount of deer in that area. So Gunner is, I guess, wanting to be safe there, so they've kind of closed the hiking trails down for the next few months. So you can go online and see all that, though. You go on the Deer and Tick.
Well, even to the property owners, like the preservation is by the town, but, not showing. Sylvester is by Sylvester Manor, and they posted no hiking and stuff like that.
No, I can.
At this season. Okay, the next thing I had was, I've been in touch with CAC of Southold. And I want to get in touch with some of the other CACs to see what they're doing, and they're very interested in what we've done. And the brochure we set out, this special place, they want to use that. I said, I don't see any reason why you can't use it. It's a very good article, pamphlet on what to do with the water, the land, and how to protect it. And we give it out every year at our Green Expo, so. I'm in touch with this woman who's waiting for the election results in Southold like we are to see who's gonna talk to and stuff. But she's very enthusiastic about it, so I think it would be good for us to talk to them what they're gonna do. Because they have, Southold, Fisher's Island, which is not, the only way you can get to Fisher's Island is
Right.
take Connecticut. And they're in charge of Plum Island, which I'm very interested in how the government's gonna close that, because this ground is gonna, Shelter Island and all islands have subsidence. The ground goes out, seeps out. You can see the tree roots come up in your property. You look at it, or you put in a building and you have the tar for the water line or something, and you see it coming down, coming down. So we always get that and overflow. So Plum Island should be very interesting to see how the government goes about keeping that.
I thought Plum was bought by Connecticut and Rhode Island.
No,
Purchased
that's
by New
Southold.
York?
That's the Southold.
Plum Island was purchased by New York.
No, that was, the Plum Island now is a government-run facility.
It's federal.
For the
Yeah.
federal, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that it was being turned over to Rhode Island and
I
Connecticut
don't-
to maintain it. That's what I was told.
Maybe
I mean,
not.
as a.
They shut down the facility. And
Yeah.
Facility's done.
And you
You have to
can't
wait
go
25
visit.
years.
And you can't visit it.
Yeah,
What were they
25
doing
years.
Animals
Research.
Disease, every disease in the world.
They had smallpox in the last case of smallpox. Very,
Yeah, no,
very
that's-
scary area.
But I think it's interesting because, and the same, we have islands, although we got Gardiner's Island. Who's that? That's a privately owned island. They shouldn't go to it and be maintained. So those people are maintained. So we have a lot of properties that might have the same thing. I mean, I know like the Water Advisory Committee and stuff, always look at Nantucket and different places like this. So it's good to read everybody on the different areas. So that's the one thing I'm gonna work on. Invasive plant and recommended plant list. That Dan is working on. Hopefully
Taking
it's
a
back
back,
up a tree.
well, it's taking a backseat to the tree stuff
Yeah.
right now. We're trying to get that taken care of, and then as
Right,
soon
like
as
you
that's
said,
over, we can.
that's good, that's good. But, Tim is working on it also.
And I have another friend with a horticulture degree that's helping
Yeah.
me out, so.
That'd be good. So we're working on it, it's nothing that. Now, the publication, Roxanne, I think publication we can put on our website if we just cross out the members. See, on the website, we have the members, and it might be changing all the time, so on the committee, so just cross out
okay.
that little paragraph.
A little paragraph
And then
about
we'll
people? Okay.
Give it to Christina to put onto the website.
Okay, so it's Christina?
Yeah, she- or
Catherine, right? You get it, that's right.
That's okay, people mix us up, it's fine.
Oh, well, no, I don't think we mixed you up. I
No,
think
no.
it seemed like Christina said she was going to take a lead or something, but if you can do it, yeah, we should be working with you. That's great.
through Catherine.
Catherine,
Or
very nice.
Coco next month.
Catherine, no, we'll,
But that's okay. So that's those two, that's the sides we're working on. We lost Mark, who was doing a good job on it. There's also the Water Advisory Committee is working on fertilizing. The fertilizers are used on the island, overuse, and we have a committee on that that meets every once in a while.
It would be nice to get the next member in that was, involved with some sort of pesticide.
It would be beautiful.
That would be a good
You know,
fit for
some of
this.
I'm
Just saying, if you
Anybody
do,
knows
if you
anybody
do
with
any.
or
background.
was
pesticide.
anti-pesticide, right?
Yeah.
Not a pesticide salesman, right?
But
You're
how
an
to utilize it.
applicator, you know more than anybody. So
That's right, what's dangerous and everything. So if anybody knows anybody, just.
Don't spray anything.
yeah, don't spray anything.
That's it. If it's a pesticide, it's killing something, which kills something else.
Right.
I agree with that one. But, okay, and Jim, if you have anything you want to add to us?
Yeah, I think Jim does.
I would, I meant to do it today. Get a card from Mark, bring it to our next.
Oh, yes, yeah,
I would urge a couple of you, if you have the time,
yeah.
his number's in the book, give him a call. Yep. Have some fun. But I will bring a card in December so we can put a little message, pass it around the table.
I mean, he was a big help to us and he's just,
Yeah, I think he's just looking to lay low for a little bit.
Yeah.
And maybe come back.
and his wife is very involved in the Sholnick thing.
So anyhow, on this thing that I just handed you out, this is on the, where are we here? The coastal resilience, no. Where's, I got it right. I gave you the thing on the members of CAC, right, Jim? Okay. So in that first paragraph, I took that straight out of our website.
Exactly.
So New York State Conservation Advisory Councils are established, and it gives you the function of what we're responsible for doing it. So people ask, what is our function? It's right in there. You know, it's right in there. And it's everything you're talking about, management of town lands, open space, major functions, education, you know, all those things that we talked about. So you can go through that. I extracted it right off the website. My reaction after reading carefully the mission statement for the CAC, we might have a more diminished role when it comes to wetlands applications, but it has a vast role in protecting our town's natural resources. We definitely can take a more active role in matters pertaining to our salt and freshwater wetlands, the protection of both the aquifer and the woodlands, as well as being more engaged in major parcels of open space and management of town lands. We also have a major role in educating the public as it permits the awareness and involvement in the protection of our natural resources that is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And I think we should work with, Meg very carefully on that comprehensive plan. Is going to be a important document for this town moving forward. Even though the CAC is strictly an advisory board, it has a responsibility to provide advice and technical support to the town board. So you got to underscore that. Moving forward, I am asking Howard and Mark to, I could place this on the agenda, which, I figured. And here's my thoughts. I tried to take this only a suggestion. I'm not on the committee. I'm just the liaison on the next to last meeting after 8 years. Breaking down the primary functions of CAC and integrate them into the yearly calendar. For example, I see it as 4 things. Inspection of town properties, which you just talked about, to conduct an annual inspection with the focus of proper maintenance, property maintenance, and remediation measures, which I went over, and prepare an annual inspection report for the town board. I would love to see that done during the months, of November through February for the inspection, and then to get a report written in February, March, that you would come back, somebody, or the committee would come back on a Tuesday, make that presentation to the town board. Second thing I think is education. Education is involved in 2 things. Use the spring, March, April, and May to prepare the materials. Execute the plan during June, July, and August. So you got 6 months out of the year where you're either preparing articles for publication or releasing articles for publication. Third assignment, salt and freshwater wetland protection. This is done throughout the calendar year, and I think it has to be, looked at all 12 months. And then 4, review of wetlands applications. Continue to review these applications and make recommendations to the planning board for their consideration based on the current town code. However, you never know. It may come back to you. The new town board may come in and say, by the way, we're reverting back to the way it was. The planning board is not going to be the ultimate authority. The town board is going to be the ultimate authority. And we're going to weigh what the planning board gives us, but we're also going to be able to weigh what the CAC gives us. So that's kind of the 4 things that I kind of see, for the committee. But when you read that opening paragraph on what you're charged with, it's a lot of stuff. It's all stuff that.
A lot of responsibility.
It's a lot of responsibility that's involved here. That's kind of the thrust of you guys can decide amongst yourself how you want to do that, but I don't know whether, you won't know until January who's going to take my spot, because they'll have an organizational meeting of the 5 new town board members. Might only be 4 in early January. So if it depends on whether Amber wins or loses. If Amber loses, he'll have 5. If Amber wins, and she assumes the supervisor's position, you're gonna have an open board seat.
Right.
You're gonna have to people will apply for it, just like we did when Mike Beebound left. We didn't do that because it was only half a year. This would be the full year of 2024, but that position would only be 1 year. And you'd vote next November on filling the 5th position. It would be an odd year because nobody would be running. So you'd have that 5th position. So Tommy Cronin,
Presidents of the United
if Tommy
States.
Cronin doesn't pass, the other guy, or Paul Shepard or anybody else could apply, or anybody outside.
Exactly.
Could apply for that 5th position. You know, it's intriguing because it's just a 1-year position.
Right.
You come in, you find out whether you like it, whether you really want to run or not. You know, as you get through it,
Sure.
you'll be on the job for 8 months. When you have to make a decision, you know, sometime in July or August, but you'll have a pretty good feel for whether you enjoy it or you don't enjoy it. I think that's the way it's going to go, you know, if Amber wins. If Amber doesn't win, she is the 5th
She's the
person.
fifth person then.
Right.
The town board has to agree on the person they put in though, right? Isn't that part of it?
Yes, I mean, the normal procedure for something of that magnitude is the 4 current members in January, not me.
Right.
The 4 new members will sit up there, they'll have a chair here, you'll come in, you'll have a series of questions, and every candidate that comes in will be asked the same questions. You won't deviate from that. And you'll have a scoring sheet, and you'll sit down there and score them. And then depending on how many you get, I'll make up a number, say 6. And you will either cut that initial interview down from 6 to 3 or 6 to 2. I don't say 6 to 4. You're either going to cut it in half or cut it by 2/3, and then you're going to go for a second round of, this way I would do it, second round of interviews where you're going to come in and you're going to separate candidate A from candidate B or C and make sure you've got the right person for the right reasons for that year. You know, that they really want it, they're kind of committed to it, they're willing to take on that responsibility, and then you pick somebody. If you make the wrong choice, by the way, it'll be evident in the polls, the person will be voted out.
Is that public interviews that the public can watch?
No.
It's private.
It's private, yeah.
But doesn't everybody have to vote for that? I mean, it's got to be a unanimous vote for them to be in there?
Yes, but you know, Mary Dudley took over for somebody who left, you know, whether it was, I forgot who it was, Brown, I think. I think he left early. So Mary Dudley was appointed. She was one of 5 interviews, and Amber was one. Amber didn't get it, and Mary did. After that year, Mary said, I'm going to run as a Democrat. Amber said, I'm going to run, and then Amber won the election.
Right.
So then Amber had 4 years, maybe 3 years, no, full 4 years, I guess, she had at that particular point. Yeah.
Should be interesting. Now, the last thing we have is the approval of the dates. Now, what is Christina has done is try to get our meeting before the planning board. So we put up these dates, asked us to take a look at and see if they're okay.
Yeah, so we're doing the first.
First of the month, basically, instead of the second. And also, I was talking to Dan before, change the meeting to 7 o'clock if we could, so we get a lot.
I was just gonna say, the WMAC for the months of December, January, February, and I'm not sure if it's March, are going, rather than meet at 6, they're meeting at 5 because it gets dark.
Yeah, that's-
And people all wanted it, you know, earlier, before dinner, because they're right in the dinner hour. So, I mean, you guys, rather, 7:30 is kind of late. You know,
Yeah.
during the winter months, Dan's not out there, it's pitch black at 4:30.
My daughter goes to bed at 7 though, so I get a little extra time with
Yeah.
her, so 7:30 is kind of nice to,
Yeah, so, hey, that's your choice, and then that's.
but I don't have to put her to bed every Monday.
No, but you could, you know.
It's only one day.
It's only once a month, right? Yeah.
That means a lot to me
It could
though.
be, yes, of course, and it could be Zoomed, you know. Maybe she'll go to
That's-
sleep early, you know? But anyway, then you make that
you guys.
decision.
Yeah.
And I know,
I'm fine with that until March.
yeah,
I don't have a
we'll
problem
keep
with
it, I'll ask Christina to make it, is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
You're okay with it? Okay, sure.
So let's
Yes,
ask
we
her,
are.
'cause then she might say
So
no.
you're just moving in a half hour earlier?
Yeah,
Okay.
because she might have a meeting.
I can let you know, 7's okay.
That was okay, all right,
She's on it.
The boss says 7's okay.
Seven,
all
that's
right.
That's good.
7
thank
it
you.
is.
Okay, so I only
Did you want to make it, oh, no, Dan
So
doesn't,
that
never mind.
starts in December?
Yep, January it starts.
No, wait, all right, so December you're staying with 7:30?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
January is 7 o'clock will be starting.
January, February.
We get out a little bit early.
And is it just January, February, and March, or are you proposing it
Well,
for the
for
year?
now, I propose at 7 o'clock, and then if we say.
And once March comes, then by the time April comes, the clock's gonna move forward, and Dan is gonna be out of work until.
So is that guy over there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Still working now till 7 or 8.
Again,
Right. Now you'll be taking advantage of good.
can you say that again, the hour, I mean, the days or the hours?
The days are on that list that you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, the hours is 7 o'clock, we're setting it up.
Or, right, but.
January, February, and
But I
March.
heard something
January,
about
February, and March.
For now.
It changes back to, yes, because these two are working
Later.
later because of the, daylight, exactly. So we go back to 7:30 in April.
That could change.
That could change, but for now, we think that's what we're.
December meeting with the subcommittee report, Dan and I will come in and share if we make a presentation to the board beforehand, what we'll do is send you a copy prior to the meeting, so you can review it, circle any questions you might have, and that would save us a little time.
Just email it to the group.
We'll email it to the group.
Okay, great, thank you.
And there's a fertilizer meeting again on November 27th. That's another committee that's working on different things. There's a lot of committees, and a lot of things that
That's
they
great.
love to have people join and speak, so.
Yes, yes.
Spread it, things and that, and that.
So could you say the goal of the fertilizer committee is what? What's the
Well-
end product?
The end product,
Down instead of fertilizer.
well, there's, no, it's good to.
Just get everybody to do that?
Minimum amount
Okay,
of fertilizer. It should be testing the soils, so you're not
Over in here.
fertilizing.
okay.
And using a recommended gardener, not somebody coming over the island and said, oh, I can turn the grass green, he's gotta be licensed by the town and stuff like
Oh,
that.
okay, good.
So it's something like that. That's what they're working on, they'll have something more.
And so then will that be a part of the town code? I mean, how are you going to get people to do
That they
this?
haven't decided yet, but it would be that
Trouble is, the DEC is in charge of a lot of that stuff, aren't they, Jim?
fertilizer.
I mean, just
Oh, yeah.
like any pesticides or fertilizer, it's like,
But they only prohibit certain things, right?
yeah, but they allow a lot of
They
stuff.
allow a lot that
A
they
lot
shouldn't.
more than you think.
Yeah.
I know, I looked that up, yeah. It's
Because
crazy.
they're making it for New York State, by the way, they're not making it for an island.
Right,
right.
Right,
But I don't think.
but they
they'd
shouldn't even be
object to
doing it
us.
for New York State, really.
You can go, like I said, with the code, you could be more restrictive than them.
Yeah,
You
Right,
can do that
Yeah.
locally and say, look, our island, we got a sole source aquifer, we can't be dumping the nitrates into us, so. And it can be done, and then talk to the DEC, and they'll say, well, okay, it's local requirements, it's.
yeah. Well, the DEC doesn't want pollution.
You in the months of January, February, and March,
Yeah.
need to sit down with the committee and say, what 3 areas do we want to target
Right,
Okay,
for the summer? So you release your articles in June, July, and August.
but like I
You
said,
had April and May to develop them.
Mhm.
What did we hit last year? We want to hit anything a second time on that topic, or we want to change the topic? There are enough topics in this area that you can shake a stick at,
Yeah.
a tree at,
right, exactly.
So there's all kinds of good educational stuff that you can get out.
Yeah, there is.
You can work with somebody like Ambrose Clancy and say, listen, we write a feature article, once per month,
right,
one for June, maybe he'll say, third week in June, July, and August, when you get people here, and just hone in on the articles, that's satisfying the educational piece,
Now, to do that through Ambrose, I would assume we'd have to have some sort of permission from the town.
No.
No?
No,
To write an article?
No, I don't think so. As long as the liaison that sits here says, you know, you.
Yeah, right.
You know, you're not, you know,
I would pass
the
it.
town doesn't need to micromanage that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the stuff that comes out of here is gonna be solid.
Somewhere along the way, someone thought they did, and that held us up from doing anything, because we seemed to think that we needed Jerry's approval, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's more of a courtesy.
yeah.
Give it to them and they say, oh yeah, go ahead, that's all. It's just so they know what's going on. I think it's only fair for the
Yeah,
board.
whoever the liaison is here, sits here, if whatever, you come in with the schedule.
Right.
We had 3 articles that were coming, well, this is for June, this is for July, this is for August. We have copies of the articles already written. Here they are, and you hand them out to the town board and say, town attorney, take a look at them. If anybody has a question with it, please let me know within 2 weeks. You know, and otherwise we assume that it's all systems go. You know, if you have any modifications that you might want to work, probably the town attorney may want to say.
Right, he might want to-
On something, you know, or if it's, and I don't think Joe Fenora would really get too much involved in it, probably be the town attorney, you know, that would have, you know, maybe.
Some of the wording or something.
Maybe overstepping our bounds on something, or it's not legal to do, or, you know, you gotta be careful about, you know.
Yeah.
He's probably the person that, you know, he would be the best person to.
We had, your article was reviewed by the town, they said it's okay. But I just said we should take the members out so that we can post it on our website.
Right, yeah. I just think even that was kind of mass confusion, though. Is it the town attorney? Is it Jerry? Is it, yeah. So, and what was the purpose of the review I wasn't recommending anything legal. I was more saying, here's some general information about pesticides you could get from any
Well,
website.
they would like to know.
Yeah,
The second thing you could branch, 2 things you could branch out to, and you get experience in it. is
Yes.
Friday Night Library, you know, have a special program, Friday Night Library.
those are lovely.
And you don't have to
Get speakers.
Get speakers, I mean.
Expert speakers.
Something that, you know, he felt
Right,
passionate about.
that's a great idea.
Somebody- You could have somebody come in and speak to that. That will be written up in the paper by them.
Right.
Some reporter write it up. The other thing is to ask the new town board, if you had a great presentation for some person, to get it on Channel 22. Why not? I mean, if you want to get the word out even more,
Yeah, that's
you
nice.
know, you could use the town, you know, Channel 22, and God, I don't think people want to see us. You know, every time I go to Channel, I
Instead of turn it off.
First thing I said, damn, do I look old? And I just, oh my God, you have this vision that you're still 50 and you're ancient.
Oh, that's not true. You look
I
great.
remember him when he
I have to
was riding that
say.
tank. The picture was in there, you know.
We just had that this weekend.
Yeah, I know.
And I will tell you, I called him on it and said, you know what saved my life? Because I'd be dead, I would never have come home from Vietnam. I would have come home in a body bag. My last name. The fact that my last name began with C, and the other second lieutenant, his last name began with S or T or something.
Right, so you.
I got on the first plane, he came up 3 hours later to July. I took headquarters in 8 Company, right overlooking in South China Sea, because my mother did not raise a dumb child. And I looked at the other assignment, it was about 2 clicks from the Ho Chi Minh Trail. There was nothing other than triple canopy jungle around this hill. He went out there, he met me in the office, he came back in, looked like hell. Said, you owe me so big. 6 months out there, and then within the next 2 or 3 weeks, I forgot exactly, the hill was overrun at night. In the middle of the night, sappers got in, hit the combo, hit the officer's thing. They called in incoming, 135 guys on the hill, all 135 either dead, or severely wounded, and he was dead. So my last name, being on the first plane, and the captain said to me, you got your choice between here
Yeah.
or here. I said, I'll take this.
All right. I don't think my
yeah.
wife- I
Yeah.
don't think we have any old business to talk about, any new business, but I see Pam has been waiting for that.
That's Pam.
Yes, Pam.
How you
It
doing?
would have been Pam's teacher. Would have had Pam as a student.
Anything to suggest, Pam, or? Okay, you're on. Can you,
Yeah, Howard, I just had one question for you, actually. You mentioned that there are 6 nature preserves? Silver
7.
Beach, Sachem's Neck, Ice Pond. 7. Okay, I have Garciga's property, Dickerson, and what are the other 2?
Darcy is up on
You know?
Ram Island. Darcy property is up on
Okay.
Ram Island.
Yeah,
That's, and Ice Pond and
That's
Sachem's
6.
Woods, Sachem's Woods is there. I have,
Yeah, Ice
Yeah.
Pond is such an easy one to do. And
yeah, that's an
really-
easy one. Sachem's is okay.
You guys keep an eye on-
Dickinson Park
Yeah.
and the 2 beaches,
We may be
Darcy.
putting a path
oh,
down.
2 beaches. Oh, the 2 beaches.
Yeah, Silver Beach and Wade's Beach. Those 2.
And Wade's Beach, that's the one I was missing. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just curious.
No,
And I also noticed, we were kind of having a small conversation about the comprehensive plan. And I
yes.
noticed that the CAC is only mentioned in one place in the
Mhm.
comprehensive plan as your existence, and it is in the natural resources chapter.
Right.
But it doesn't really talk about your role and your position in the town as important as it is. And I think it's extremely important. Obviously, I come to your meetings and I always learn something. But has this committee looked at that chapter on the comprehensive plan? Because I think that it appears that there's been a push to get this comprehensive plan approved before the end of the year. And I just wonder if any of you have taken a chance to look at the chapter and seen anything of concern, or have they asked you, the advisory council or the task force asked you for any opinions on what's in there?
Well,
What chapter did you
No.
see that in?
7 and 8, I think, both of those chapters, I think it is, but I've looked at them, but I haven't looked at them in a month or so. I had some other questions that I written in the comment sheets that they have, how they handled all the comments that they got from the public. There's like, I guess, a couple of 100 comments that we don't know what happened to them. They haven't explained that yet, so.
Pam, it's a great
I
thing.
know,
that
I just-
It's a great thing you brought that up, Pam. We'll take a look. I'll make sure that I touch base with Meg on that. Just, I'll look into that. Howard, maybe
Yeah, I
between you and I.
I mean, it's just a matter of dotting all the i's and crossing all
No,
the
it's a
t's.
good
It's a
point.
very
That's a good
important
point.
document, and I
It's
just,
a good point.
It's very good. Okay,
Thank you for that.
thank you,
Appreciate it.
Pam, we appreciate it.
thanks, fellas and ladies. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Pam.
All right, so somebody make a move that we close the meeting. Let's wrap it up. And second it, and that's it.
All right.